Hello, my name is Aubrey, and today I wanted to do a spoilery chat for the original ACOTAR trilogy. A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Mist and Fury, and A Court of Wings and Ruin. I feel like I might get questions about these dust jackets. These dust jackets were in an Illumicrate box for the Court of, what is it? A Court of Silver Flame, and I splurged and got them at the time, even though I hadn't read the series, because I really dislike the new covers, and the box promised to have alternative dust jackets, and boy did they. They are really pretty. Unfortunately, they're quite hard to find now and really expensive, so I'm sorry. Let me just start the video by saying that if you love this series, if this is your favorite series, and you don't want to see someone talking negatively about it, this video might not be for you. It probably is not for you. I went into this series hoping to love it. Like, obviously, I didn't buy these dust jackets and all of these hardcover books assuming that I wouldn't like it, you know? I wanted to love it, but unfortunately I just didn't. I didn't hate it, and I'm not here to trash it or make fun of it, but I fear that this video is not going to be super positive. So, you know, again, just like, if you don't want to watch that, that's okay. Don't watch it. Secondly, this is a spoilery chat, like full spoilers, okay? I know I've done a bunch of spoiler-free reviews on the channel for other series, but for this one, number one, it being so popular, I feel like just like who even needs a review of this series anymore? But secondly, I have a really hard time doing like spoiler-free reviews for stuff that I disliked, and I just want to talk about my full feelings. I want to reference specific things that happen, so I just wanted to do a full spoilery chat type video. So again, if you haven't read the series and you don't want spoilers, don't watch this video. It's full spoilers. I'm going to be talking in-depth, specific stuff, and I'm going to be talking to you as if you have read the books. So even if you haven't read the books and you just don't care about spoilers and you want to watch the video anyway, you might not know what's going on because, like, I'm going to assume that you've read them because it's a spoilery chat. So yeah, I have notes. And I will be referring to my notes a lot of things that I want to talk about. But yeah, I'm just going to be going over my reading experience with these books, talking about the positives and negatives, things I liked, things I didn't, and that's it. So I hope you enjoy. So let's start with our very first book, A Court of Thorns and Roses. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, right? I thought this one was okay. I think I ended up giving this 2 stars. It was like a fun enough read. Like, I do remember reading it really quickly. I listened to the audiobooks for these, and I remember listening to most of it in one day. So it definitely still had like an addictive readable quality, even if like what I was reading wasn't super enjoyable. My biggest complaints with this book are, number one, Pharaoh acting like an idiot like so much of the book, which I just like, I don't know, I was just banging my head against a wall. Like, she kept making stupid decision after stupid decision. The beginning of the book, killing the Fae in the first place, which I know catalysts the story and is like an important beat, but it still just felt like, girl, why would you do that? Why would you kill a Fae in cold blood when you know how powerful and dangerous they are? I mean, she's not like, she doesn't know that it's Fae, but like she highly suspects that it's Fae, so it just seems like a stupid decision all around. When she finally gets to the Fae realm, she goes to that party even though she's told not to go to the party. There's like that instance when her father shows up at the court in the middle of the night and she runs after him even though she knows that her father has a limp, and this like version of her father isn't limping. She just runs after him even though she knows the Fae world is dangerous and like she's got to have her wits about her. The part in the story where the Suriel tells her to stay with the High Lord and yet she leaves anyway. Like, it's just like, she's just kind of frustratingly dense in this book, which I didn't enjoy. Tamlin as a love interest, I feel like was so vanilla. He's so boring. He's like one of the most boring love interests I've ever read. He's so boring to the point where I thought that Lucian, who is like so much more interesting, so much more dynamic, has so much better chemistry with Feyre. I was so convinced that he was like the true love interest of the first book. I knew that she eventually ended up with Rhysand, but like for the first book, I was like, this guy really? I don't know, he just has like nothing going on, you know? Just like nothing. Their banter is non-existent, and then it's not cute. I don't know, he writes her dirty poems. I don't know. Not my thing, I guess. So yeah, for a while I was like really convinced that Lucien must be the real love interest because he's just like a better character, right? Like all around, he's just like a much more fun character. What else? Oh, I am personally a little bit sick of Beauty and the Beast retellings where the actual experience of like being with the beast isn't all that bad. He whisks her away, he takes care of her family, they're all set. She's got food, she's got paint, she can just like be free and do whatever she wants, even though she killed a fae in cold blood. And I know that we later find out that it was all a setup and she was meant to kill that fae and like it was all part of the thing, but it just sort of, I mean, for me, the reader, it just felt like, oh, so there are just no consequences for what she did. It's just, she just gets to live like a much better life than she had before. Her family's better off. Like everything's better now. I don't know. There's no conflict in that. For me, I've just read several Beauty and the Beast retellings that are kind of like that, where everything's just better now, which I feel like doesn't really make for a good story, I guess. Okay, so I, again, knew she ended up with Rhysand and not Tamlin. So I was the entire book doing mental gymnastics thinking that Tamlin was actually the villain, or at the very least that the twist was going to end up being that she had to fall in love with him, but he wasn't going to be in love with her. Because I remember there being a part in the book where Feyre assumes going into the fairy realm that like fairies can lie, right? And then Lucien tells her that no, actually fairies can like totally lie. And I was like, oh, so Tamlin is going to tell Feyre he loves her, and it's going to be a lie. The rug that's going to be ripped out from under us at the end of the book is that she's going to break the curse by saying she loves him, and then he's going to be like, oh, thanks for breaking the curse, but like, I never loved you, type thing. And I was like, I just kept waiting for that shoe to drop. Super convinced that this is how it was going to end. And then that's not what happens. He loves her. It's just boring. Yeah. I don't know. He's just so bland. I figured he had to be hiding something, or like there was going to be something that would happen there, but it didn't. I feel like nothing happens for most of this book. I did really enjoy the ending. Like once she goes to Under the Mountain, that whole part of the book was like super fun. I enjoyed getting to spend more time with Rhysand. Obviously, I knew they were endgame, so like getting to see their early interactions was really fun. I didn't even know he was in this book. I figured he just like showed up in book 2 and we were all supposed to swoon, but no, he was here in the first book, and I felt like it was pretty clear, even really early on, that like everything he was doing under the mountain was to help her, even though it kind of looked pretty fucked up on the outside, that no, actually, in his messed up way, he's like trying to be helpful. I definitely enjoyed seeing all of that maneuvering. I also really enjoyed like the scene with the worm, watching Feyre actually do something cool and take down like the crazy worm in the labyrinth or whatever. That was fun. Yeah, like all that was like really enjoyable. Amarantha was like definitely sort of a fun, crazy villain. Do I have anything else to say about this? I don't think so. Oh, I do want to say, and I guess here is like a good place to interject this, but like I was genuinely surprised with this book and the next one, especially, I guess all three. I was like genuinely very caught off guard by how much explicit smut there is. And you might be kind of confused about that because like this series is really famous for being smutty, but this original trilogy was first published in YA, okay? Like I was there when these books were coming out in YA. I used to work at a bookstore. Like we shelved these and sold them to teenagers. I was just genuinely shocked at like how explicit the sex scenes are. Like, I knew the books were sexy and I figured they would have some, you know, steamy scenes, but I was expecting it to be more like fade to black, or at the very least just like a little more coy for why, you know, to be shelved in YA, but like no. It just kind of caught me off guard because I was expecting like the fourth book, A Court of Silver Flame, to be like the really smutty one, because that's the one that elevated the series into being adult in the first place. So I figured that one would be especially smutty, but I wasn't expecting these first three to be as like explicit as they are. I don't know. That was just kind of an interesting surprise. Okay, book 2. I feel like I don't have that much to say about this one. I have a couple of things written down. So this one I definitely enjoyed the most out of all three. I did think that the beginning of this book was handled pretty well, actually. Tamlin isn't the villain. He does actually love Feyre, and Feyre loves Tamlin, but after what happened to them, Tamlin being completely traumatized, I mean, like, her neck was snapped. She died. And especially finding out later that, like, he also almost witnessed his mother's death as well. Like, he's clearly dealing with a lot of feelings, and his overprotectiveness of Feyre at the beginning of this book, and the fact that he still sees her as the fragile human that she was, even though she's no longer human. Feyre being like, yeah, so I was kept captive underground in a jail cell for months and months. I want to go outside. I want to see more of the Fae world. I want to do anything other than live inside my own brain because it's full of trauma. And that conflict resulting in them not being compatible anymore. I actually thought that was handled really well, and to Sarah J. Maas's credit, I feel like plenty of authors don't pull that off well. If they want to do like a switcheroo on the love interest, usually they go about it by just making the first love interest the villain out of nowhere. At least in this book, I felt like it made sense and the progression felt somewhat natural instead of it just being like, Tamlin's an overprotective douchebag now for no reason. Like, it just makes sense to me. I do feel like I would have liked a few more visits with Rhysand. So remember at the beginning of the book, they like still have that deal going on where she's supposed to go visit him every few weeks. I would have loved to see that a few more times before she goes to like live with him, just because I think the juxtaposition between like her time with Tamlin and then her time with Rhysand was like a lot of fun. Rhysand interrupting the wedding, 10 out of 10. So much fun. I was squealing at that part of the book. Absolutely iconic. I loved it. And then when Feyre goes back with him and she like chucks her shoe at his head, gold. Mor's introduction, as well as just like Mor as a character, 10 out of 10. I love her. I wish we got more of her in the series. I wish we got her perspective. There have been multiple times where I wish these books were multi-POV because I just really like Mor and I would like to follow her around. I'm having trouble like remembering everything that happens in this book. I love that she goes to retrieve her own engagement ring from like the hoarding witch. I forgot what she's called, but like she doesn't know that that's like what she's doing. I thought that was cute. Yeah, there are lots of like cute moments in here that I enjoyed, but I do think overall it was like a little too sexual for me, just like as a personal preference. I'm not saying the book is bad. I'm not critiquing the book for it. I'm just, in terms of my own personal enjoyment, I think that a lot of their banter was very heavily sexual. I just didn't always care for it. For me, I just think I enjoy flirting that's a little more romantic, I guess, and their banter is like so sexual towards each other that it's just not my thing. And I think that's kind of what it comes down to in terms of like why this was only a 3.75 instead of the 5-star that I was kind of expecting it to be, because everyone loves this book. Everyone and their mother loves this book. Lots of my favorite booktubers whose opinions I highly respect love this book. So I was just hoping to love it and I just didn't. Like, I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it, but I didn't love it. And again, I'm not totally sure why this wasn't like a knockout for me. My suspicion is that like I identify as demisexual, which basically means that you don't feel sexual attraction until you have felt emotional attraction for someone, like until you emotionally connected with someone. And so I think for me, the fact that they are so blatantly sexual with each other, like up front, and they're so attracted to each other, it just wasn't something that I personally found enjoyable, and it's not something that I can personally relate to. I definitely think it works for both of these characters. I don't find it off-putting necessarily, it just isn't something I enjoy either, if that makes any sense. So yeah, that's A Court of Mist and Fury. Oh, the other thing I want to say is that this is going to give some context into my feelings for the next book, but after Feyre and Rhysand got together in this one, I put the book down for like 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I remember listening to the audiobook, they got together, all that stuff happened, and I looked down at my phone, you know, and I was like, how are there still 3 more hours in this audiobook? What is supposed to happen now? And so all of this plot just like shows up at the very end that I just didn't care about. And it was a struggle to read those last few chapters, which I think might have been part of why I rated it 3.75 instead of 4. Because like I did enjoy it. I probably enjoyed it 4 stars worth, but I struggled a lot with the actual plot of this and the next book. So I guess let's just get on to the third one. A Court of Wings and Ruin, which I gave 1 star. And again, I just want to clarify, I gave it 1 star, not because I think it's a terrible book, but just because that's how much I enjoyed it, which was to say, not very much. The beginning of this book was really fun. I loved being back in the Spring Court with Tamlin, but Pharaoh was double-crossing him, ruining the Spring Court from the inside, being a spy, and just like all of that was really fun. You know, based on that beginning, I thought I was really going to enjoy this book. I loved getting to see more of Lucien because I really love Lucien. Lucien is still my favorite character through her time at the Spring Court, and once she and Lucien escape from the Spring Court, like I enjoyed them being back together again. But like once she gets back to the Night Court, I just like really struggled to care about anything that was happening, unfortunately. I just didn't care about the war with Hybern. I didn't care about the wall coming down. If there were any human characters left that we had an emotional connection with, that were like on the other side of that wall, I might have felt differently, but like every character is now Fae, except for Feyre's father, who we don't even like anyway. I just felt like there were no emotional stakes, and so I just like had a hard time emotionally connecting to anything that was happening. I also just firmly believe this book, at the very least, should have been multi-POV, because none of the interesting things that are happening to Feyre. Okay, her 2 sisters just got turned into Fae. They just got turned into Fae. Elaine was engaged to a Fae-hating apocalypse bunker boy, and she gets turned into a Fae and then discovers that she's mated to another Fae that she doesn't even know. She's like never even met this guy. Are you kidding me? Where is that book? I want to read that book. I don't know. I just feel like that is like the love triangle of the century, right? Is that not like the most interesting thing going on in this book? And yet we barely see any of it. Nesta not being able to like take baths because she's so traumatized about going through the cauldron, and her budding romance with Cassian. Like, I want to see that. Like, I want to see that. Okay? I just think Sarah J. Maas is much better for me. I enjoy her most when she's doing her interpersonal relationships, the flirting, the banter, the court politics and maneuvering, smaller scale stuff. That's what I think she's best at. And so this whole book is like war and battle scenes and like stuff like that. And I just couldn't care about any of it. Like, one of my favorite scenes in the whole book is when they're at some court. I can't even remember now. They're at some court. They're trying to convince some of the High Lords to like join their side and like fight against Hybern. And Tamlin shows up and just like calls everybody a slut and causes all this drama. And I remember him showing up and being like, oh shit, things are going down. And that just being really entertaining because we know Tamlin. We care about Tamlin. Pharaoh loved him and then ran away from him. There are emotional stakes there that we, the reader, care about. And I just like don't care about Hybern. I don't care about him as a villain. I don't care about, I don't know. I just like don't care about the conflict whatsoever. I kind of feel like this whole book should have just been Pharaoh trying to like take down the spring court from the inside. I just think that would have been a much more fun book, and we could have gotten some extra chapters of like Elaine and Nesta, or at least Lucian. We should have gotten some Lucian chapters. She and Rhysand would have been separated because she's like playing this spy, and so there still would have been some tension and like yearning. I struggled my way through this book. It was super hard to finish. I don't know, I just didn't like it. So yeah, overall like a mixed reading experience. I will definitely continue this series. I had planned to just binge read them all, but after disliking A Court of Wings and Ruin so much, I just needed a break. I've decided to read just like some other stuff in the meantime, and I'll try to get back to it before the end of the year because I don't want to wait too long and forget characters and details and stuff like that. If you've read the ACOTAR series, please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I hope this video wasn't too offensive to those of you who like really love this series. I tried to be fair and respectful, and I just want to make it clear that like a lot of the problems I personally had are super subjective, right? Like I don't think these are like objective issues with the books. They're just things that I didn't personally enjoy. I hope that came across. Leave your thoughts about the series down in the comments. Please like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more from me. I hope to see you next time. Bye.